all over the place. I think we are live. We are live. I am so excited to hear. Welcome, everyone, to another special episode of Thrive Loud Live. We're coming to you on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. There's even probably direct feeds to Instagram and to Spotify. Who the heck knows how these things work these days? But I'm so excited today because we have the communication skills coach, expert, amazing speaker, CEO of, spoiler alert, Stacey Hanke Incorporated, which basically exists to equip leaders within organizations to communicate with confidence, presence, and authentically day in, day out, Monday to Monday, as she says. And she's an amazing author of the book. Holy cow, shameless plug here.
Look at that.
Influence Redefined. She's been on the program before a long time ago, and I had to bring her back. Thrive Loud listeners and viewers, Stacey Hanke. How are you, Stacey?
I'm well. You do that so well. And you're right. You probably could start to actually let me interview you on my topic because we've known each other for quite some time.
So Stacey has one of the things, and the viewers get to see this. You know, everyone always comes back to my background that we have like lots of cool greens and whatnot, but nobody does the screen bit better with on brand than Stacey. For the viewers, the listeners who can't see this, she's got her logo. One of my favorite icons ever. And if you are an internet little geeky person like me, she's got the, I think it's called the favicon, which is like her little Y with the little red balls on top. And she's always red and white on brands. I love that every time I see it. So I see it. I was excited.
Thank you. I appreciate that because if you could see even more of the background, I had a client the other day that said to me, man, it looks like you're at like an MTV crib. I'm just going to take that as a compliment.
Well, it certainly should be. So what the listeners need to know is Stacey's not only on her game, but in today's world, in today's environment, there is nothing more important than making sure that we make the connections through communication. And where she is sitting and who she is helping and how she is helping people has kept her to be a very busy person. So what I want to do, this is what we do it live, but it's like a catch-up episode, Stacey. So what I want to do here, share with the listeners and viewers what you've been up to of late, where things are going, and really what's been your main gig and focus these days, and that will spark our conversation so that we can kind of get into it a little more.
We can talk today because last week it was different. Last month it was different. It's still heavily virtual. I mean, the one thing that we're hearing our clients, and I'm sure all of you are hearing this as well, or you're feeling this, is Zoom fatigue. We come and say, it's not fatigue. It's not Zoom fatigue. It's really bad meetings. And when the meeting is ineffective, why don't we come in and actually prevent you from having ineffective meetings? Lou, it's still heavily focused around the idea of how do you connect? How do you engage here? We've been sitting in front of a camera for how many months? You've got then the individuals who are starting to go hybrid. That's another hot topic right now. And our whole point there is, well, take advantage of this environment and really build how you connect, how you engage, how you influence in this environment. Because when you go hybrid, that's a whole nother skill set. And that's been another thing that's just been really, really hot.
I want to address this because this is something that's a real challenge. And I think you actually can help even explain the technicality of this. People are already starting to return to the workplace. I want to make sure I'm saying return to the workplace because we're not returning to work because we have been continuing to work probably harder than we ever have.
Yeah.
But having people that are some folks who are in the workplace physically, other people that are still working remotely or at home, explain maybe to our listeners a little bit of how leaders can address this communication challenge. This is now a challenge. It's not like everybody's in a Zoom room right now. We've got some people in an office, some not, which forces people to have to bring them back into the virtual space. Can you talk about how you're seeing and helping people manage through that communication challenge?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack there. So let's just kind of lay it out so it's a little easier for your listeners. Is first, you've got to interact like you've never interacted before. I tell every client that I work with, take your interaction skills that you're doing here, and I want you to put them on steroids. Because when you have a virtual and an in-person audience, all of us know the obvious of what's going to happen. The side conversations that'll happen in person, the conversations walking to the meeting, the conversations that happen with that in-person audience when they leave, all of those interactions, your virtual audience misses out on There has to be someone, and whether it's the leader, whether it is the facilitator of that actual meeting, you need someone to fill that facilitation role to be constantly updating the virtual audience of what's been happening live and in person. You need to know where your camera is. I mean, think back, Lou, to the old days, right? When we had conference calls and you'd be in a boardroom and you'd be talking, you would talk to the conference phone and no one else existed in there. And it's knowing where the camera is. It's constantly interacting with that group to let them know whatever they missed in the room. And I'm only speaking from experience, Lou. I don't know how much hybrid that you've had as well, but I've been on both sides where I'm the only one virtual and everyone's in person. And it's the oddest thing because you can see laughter going on here. I can see people talking in the back. And I'm thinking, I cannot adapt my message on the fly if I don't know all these conversations that are happening. So having someone live in person to be that moderator is going to be key. Now for the leader, third point, for the leader who, if we take it to the next step, they're managing from afar, is you've got to over communicate.
Yeah.
You need to do it well though. So I'm not saying just communicate long emails to everyone that everyone doesn't need to be on the email, attachments that have no purpose. It's being even more clear, deliberate, having brevity around your messaging, but you have to do it more often. And I want you to use variety in how you do it. So for example, every Monday morning, I send my team a text message just to get them mentally in the space they need for that day, for that week. Then on Friday, I always send an email and it's a Friday update of recapping, checking in on their accountability. What have they done for their development this week? What's for next week? And then we meet in person, virtually, we meet every week. So it's really making a choice on, I have all these individuals on my team. Everyone has a different learning style. How am I going to make them feel like they're part of this environment, this culture, if they're not walking through those doors every day, or not every day, once in a while in the week, right?
Well, and that's actually what a great point. And I'm just laughing because yesterday we had a group Zoom call and there were two people physically in the office. And what was really funny was that one woman needed to go from one side of her desk to the other to someone who was on a laptop and get behind her monitor. So the two of them were together so they can both be seen, because the microphone issues in the office were challenging and the sound issues. We've become our own little technical production team every day. But you made a great point about knowing where the camera is. And I say this, it's not only knowing where the camera is, but as I'm looking at you right now, knowing how to, you have to get this energy through this lens to get that message through. It can't just be so passive in the 2D world. You speak about this when people are in person and the energy you need to project. How are you helping people today learn how to do this better? Because I've actually heard you give a couple of messages about like kind of penetrating through this screen and making sure your message gets through.
This might help if you haven't done this yet, something to maybe test out with your team. One of the first things my team and I did when we were all in lockdown is we literally sat down as a team. We said, all right, how do we interact when we're in person? What do we hear from our clients as far as how they experience us and the value that we bring? And we just started laying it down on a piece of paper, Lou. We then took a step back and we looked at this list and we thought, how can we do this in this environment as well? And you can. The challenge is, where's the camera? What do I do with my eyes? You know, you've seen everything in this space where people don't know where to look. You only have this small of a space, which could be a good thing or a bad thing to work with. It's really thinking about, how do I show up in person? How can I create that same experience here? I want my listeners to feel like they're sitting in that room with me. That's going to be really, really critical when you've got the hybrid, because of the two different situations and elements that you have there. So things like, don't cut yourself off at the head. I mean, how many times do you see people showing up and you just see their head or you see the ceiling? It's get the most of you in this view. And I want you to behave like you do in person so that you're creating this consistency of however you show up every day. People never have to guess whether you're virtual, you're in person, you're on the phone, camera on, camera off, or the many other mediums that we're starting to find ourselves communicating through.
I want to hit this because I wrote this down and things I wanted to talk about with Stacey. Can we talk about some, we'll call them taboos or do not do's, because during the whole pandemic, there were so many bad things going on and I think people got used to it, but I think it'll be worth addressing. One of my favorites, and this is a to-do I'll lead with, There's an executive I deal with often, and he literally will take his laptop and start walking around his house, bouncing around, chewing while he's on the phone. And every now and then we have to kind of like reel him in, like, you have cream cheese on the side of your face. Can you give a little bit of list of some of the taboos or do not do's, if you would, from your expertise?
I think there has to be a book, right? I think I need to write a book about this because my team and I, we will laugh about the crazy stuff we see. So the obvious ones are it's way too close. The whole setup is really bad where you're looking up someone's nose or they're looking at their monitor. So you see the side of their face the entire time. The classic is they think they can't see you catching up on email right now, right? I had a guy the other day, he had a pair of glasses on and I can see it. I can see his email reflection in his glasses. And I said to him, it's obvious you've got something really important to complete. I don't want to waste your time. So finish your email and then we can come back together as a group. Because here's the deal. Your job on these calls is to influence action all the time, right? Because otherwise, why would you have the interaction? And if you see some chaos going down and you don't deal with it, what's going to happen? The other things is the food. I always give this scenario when clients will ask me, what do you think about your dress? And, we're at home, so we're more informal. What would you think if I show up to your boardroom with my baseball cap on, my favorite concert t-shirt on, I'm eating a burrito and all this ingredients is falling out, and then I'm carrying my dog on top of it? and I get it, Lou, that we were all thrown in this world of, I've never worked out of my home. I don't have the space. I'm challenged with that though, 18, 19 months later.
Yeah.
Because you have the time now, right? And I get it, Lou, if your child pops in the screen, I think there is this balance of, as a leader, showing some of your personality. You just got to remember, you control your reputation, and everything that we do in this space, our name is on it. And you only have a small tile. You just have to find a small space in your room. I did a video blog this week, and it was just a little bit of a play on Halloween and using some craziness that we see, and I tie it to the virtual mishaps that we've seen. And one was mimes, not knowing where your mute button is on or off. The other one was the lighting, like we're sitting in these dark caves. So it's just really thinking through, how do you want to show up here?
Yeah. It's a really great point. By the way, the joke about lighting, and this is a problem I have that Stacey does not have. As a follically challenged individual, I learned very quickly in my own studio when lights would shine off the top of my head. If this light above me was on, it is not. It would be reflected into the camera, like, turn off it and bounce this way. And I've had this conversation with other follically challenged men about this when they're on camera. Watch that lighting on there and trying to figure out what works well. I do want to. You mentioned something so important about being on brand, because I joked about this 4 years ago, when you first came on to Thrive Loud, how on brand you always are, appearance on stage, as a presenter. And I think if there's one thing that has consistently happened as we've been in the virtual world, got through the difficulties of where things are, and we're starting to go back, how to make sure that the consistency remains. And I think you agree with this, right? Like specifically, as we're starting to go back to live stages, we're starting to go back into conference rooms and workshops and get back together. We don't want those two personas to be different. Can you talk about the importance of that consistency?
That's so true. And this goes right back to what you were asking, what craziness have we seen here in this virtual space? We've gotten so relaxed in the virtual space, not realizing everything you're doing here, how you show up, how you stay showed up, what you leave behind. If that's not consistent with how you walk into that client site, if you're in sales, how you walk into that boardroom, how you walk on stage, whatever it might be, suddenly people are guessing, well, who's the real Lou? Like, which one am I going to get today? And I am not saying you need to be perfect with how you communicate and how your body language, what that communicates. I'm not saying that. Be conscious. Be conscious of what you do in this space to what you do in that in-person space. Do you have a really bad posture here and you're just constantly distracted by things going on outside your tile? that distraction now comes into play that's going to really question your reputation also when you're in person. Now flip it, right? Because I've also had individuals who I've known in person for years. When we came to this virtual space, it was like a totally different person. You can't be two people at one time. And that's why I constantly am talking about build a consistent brand Monday to Monday in your personal life and your professional life. Therefore, when you do switch more into in-person or hybrid, whatever your world will be, it's not this big, wow, this big shock. This is so odd. This is so different.
I love it, and it's so true. It's keeping that consistency together. I've been dying to ask this question to you because I've been asking lots of clients who are doing this return to workplace bit. Um, what's something you want to take from the working at home or the virtual world that we were in from COVID that you want to bring forward? What was a good best practice that you yourself found yourself doing in the way that you work with your company that you want to carry forward into the way we move forward?
Yeah. And I'm just going to be honest right up front, right? We didn't do Zoom before this.
Right.
And I'd be on a conference call, Lou. I would be checking emails sometimes if I wasn't that interested in what was going on in the call. If I was tired, I'd be walking around, folding laundry, being on a call. This has forced me to be so ultra focused that I have learned things about my clients personally and professionally. I've realized I've missed years prior to being locked down.
Yeah.
This has forced me to not be distracted and to listen at active, right? Be active in your listening. That if I'm not always taking notes, I easily after the call still remember so much depth behind what they're saying and why are they saying it. It's also allowed me, because of that focus, it's allowed me to hear things that my client isn't saying. I call it their known unspoken, right? They might say, oh, we don't have time to do this training, but there's more there. And I realize when you're so focused, I can dig deeper into what really is the issue, what lane are they in, and it's a challenge. It's especially if you're on Zoom calls all day, that's a real hard challenge. Yet the reward outweighs that. I want to be able to carry that through long beyond when I'm doing more in person as well.
Love it. We're going to do some things that we haven't done on the show, but first I want to do a little, we're going to do what we'll call the plug section, the admin part. I want you to share with our listeners and viewers just all the things that you have coming up on your calendar, activities, events. You can tell them where to find you, all that stuff. We'll put it all in the show notes, but and we've been screening it across the screens here of all the contact places of where you can find Stacey Hanke.
Yeah.
But it always gets more engagement for the listeners when they hear it from you. So catch everybody up. Where can everybody find
I love
Stacey?
that you're doing that. So we are, one thing I committed to clients, or you weren't our client, just really wanted to be a resource from afar. Maybe that's another answer to your previous question, Lou. Something that we've really upped our marketing and our social media. We don't sell from that platform. We really are there to constantly push out information around our topic. We're big in video. So if you go to our website or any of the streaming messages that you see that Lou is posting, we have tons of video. We have a lot of content that we're just constantly throwing it out there. As far as what we're doing, ironically, there's several clients I can't share who we're working with, but my team is weekly working with some really big clients. You can see our clients on our website doing a lot of virtual training. And like you said, Lou, slowly getting out there and doing a couple more in person on the workshop side, doing a lot of mentoring. We do, wow, we have, I can't even count how many mentoring sessions we do in a week. And it's with leaders. It's usually the CEO, it's their executive team, or someone who's ready to move into that position. And I think it's because, Lou, they've realized this is not going away. This is also magnified truly how effective we are as communicators. So go to our website. We are constantly giving out complimentary resources, and you can also see where we're sitting on social media to grab those resources.
Love it. Stacey Hanke, we have to go down Fun Street because this is an avenue you have not been down with me before.
Okay.
We have the whole time, but specifically Fun Street here. Okay. The way this works is I'm going to ask you something, and I want the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Most of these things are things that lift you up, motivate you. Basically, they make you thrive. Okay, you're ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready to rock.
Okay. Of late, a song that you love to listen to or one that pumps you up?
Anything by Pitbull. Do I need to label just one? That'll tell you a lot about me right
I
there.
did not know that. And now that's actually pretty cool. So I
Give me
love
a
that.
little Pitbull.
A favorite food that is not dessert?
Not dessert. Pasta.
Any specific type of pasta? That's a pretty big genre.
With salmon on it.
Oh, okay.
How's that?
An activity you wish you did more of?
Oh, workout.
An activity.
I just work out in general. I'm a fitness instructor on the side. I've been teaching fitness for 20 plus years. I won't tell you how long. And if I could just do that 24/7, I guess I could, right? That would be my thing.
All right. I like that. An activity you wish you did less of?
Cold calling.
Everybody knows Stacey Hanke. There's no cold calling. You know everybody from one end or another.
That never goes away.
I forgot to hit this, but we talked about what your favorite food that was not a dessert. What is your favorite dessert?
Dark chocolate.
Oh, I'm a big dark chocolate
Yeah.
fan too. I need like one a day type of thing.
Oh gosh, yeah. One? You only do one a day?
Well, like, like usually it's like a handful of dark chocolate raisins or something like that, or dark chocolate pretzels. Those are my like total.
Yeah, that's my go-to.
You like the ones from Trader Joe's or really flat ones? I think they're like the
I
flat
know
dark
those.
chocolates in the purple bag. I don't really know what they're quite addictive.
Dark chocolate
Addicting.
pretzels, huh? See, you need the sweet and salt.
I do. Definitely, absolutely. If I were to snap my finger, Stacey Hanke, and you can go anywhere in the world.
Australia.
Have you been?
No.
Yeah, so it's on my list.
Have you?
Too. No, it's not that. Actually, New Zealand is ahead of Australia.
That's
But,
a close to
yeah.
a close, right? I look at Australia and I'm just going to package New Zealand onto that trip.
The last thing I want to ask, and it's part of Fun Street, but it's always good. I want to say we're recording this now, obviously in late October, and I can't believe this year has flown by. What are you looking forward to in 22 specifically? You personally, professionally, is there something that you know is coming that you're like, I can't wait to get to that?
Yeah, personally, more travel. I'm guessing you've heard that many times. More travel and even more time with my family. I'm super close with my sisters, my mom and dad, and just too much time was lost last year. Professionally, you probably can relate, Lou, just getting back out there more than we are right now.
Huh.
If there's a silver lining, and you've got to find the silver linings, right? I hope you're not. I'm talking to your listeners right now, to never take for granted what we had.
Yeah.
You know, how many times I'm sitting in an airport thinking, I'm so tired of traveling. And now I can't wait. Just let me get back out there and do what I love. So take advantage of what you've got right now, build off of it. And don't ever forget to be grateful.
Stacey Hanke, truly a rock star. Awesome to have you back on the program. I miss you in person. One of these days we're doing the real in-person hug.
We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Thanks so much, Lou. So good to always hang out with you.
Absolutely. And to all our listeners and viewers out there, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.